Hello and welcome back to the F2 Creator Series. Today we are at a very special circuit, one circuit that has been the start of many Grand Prix Formula 1 seasons. Today, mid-season, however, returning to the Albert Park circuit in Melbourne, Australia. With me in co-coms is Carl Poranik. And Carl, how are you doing today? Hope you are hyped for some good racing.
Oh, I'm certainly hyped, and I'm doing well, thank you, John. I hope you're doing well too. Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It's good to be here in Formula 2. It's spicy. Last week was, well, it's a whole oil tanker's worth of chaos last week in Belgium. If we get even, well, to quote Matt from last week, if we get even half of that here in Australia, we will be singing. But we shall see. There's plenty to talk about before we get in. Obviously, sprint feature, stipulations and whatnot, but also a couple of, well, there's definitely one driver move to talk about for this week.
Indeed. Many drivers obviously getting shuffled around to F1 and then back down to F2. But it's going to be interesting. However, I'm going to have to interject because it looks like the lobby has already started, would you believe? So we're going to shuffle along straight away, and we'll have a chance to talk about the drivers and the changes during the racing. It's looking like it's a dry circuit today, so that'll be very relieving, I think, for many drivers. I heard a lot of talk pre-race that they were very scared of the traction zones, and it was looking like a few drivers were just praying for those dry conditions, so they'll be very happy to see this.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they'll be pretty happy to see the back of the weather from Belgium last week, but it's all the psychology in the sprint race. You know, you don't have much time. You've got to get up as much as you can, maximize the limited number of points, especially compared to the feature race. So we'll see if they keep it composed. We'll be away soon.
And
5 red
lights out. Yep, indeed. Holding for quite a while, would you believe? And it's lights out and away we go then for the start of this race. Is there going to be some turn one action here? Looking to be quite clean into the first turn. A bit of wing damage at the back there, I think, from one of the Red Bull cars. But everybody getting away quite clean, would you believe? This is going to be interesting then in terms of strategy, because usually a lot of people's bank on a safety car.
Yes, contact made immediately in the background. B-Roy gets the perfect start out of the front. Do they make it through turn 3? It looks like they all make it through. Nice little procession through there. Side by side between Adam Sanderson, Dan Moran. Round the outside goes Adam Sanderson. Nice and ballsy on the first lap. No stone unturned. He'll want to make up for what was a pretty neutered week last week, will Mr. Sanderson. But he's already putting himself in a positive position there.
Yes, indeed, and huge fighting at the back of the track, as we've got some fighting at the front as well, with Chesnoid Gaming having a go at Hoodie Pete here. The first couple of laps are all about trying to break those DRS gaps straight away. DRS is so potent around this track with 3 DRS sectors, and some of them back-to-back indeed, as Chesnoid Gaming looks to the inside and indeed gets the turn done, even before the turn. Incredible stuff.
Nice academic move from Chesnoid there. Everything he needed to do. Up into P2 he goes. B-Roy, though, still escaping. Adam Sand. Oh, no! In the gravel goes Hoodie Pete. Just after Chesnoid had made the move. Spinning into the sandbox he goes. That is emotional damage if we've ever seen it. But B-Roy just about to complete the first lap up at the front. And before you all wonder, yes, there is one driver we have to talk about. One that's going to set the world alight. And his name is Gareth Allen, one of our own. He's in P11, started at the very back. He's reserved. He's a reserve driver in Formula 2 this week, as Viper, meanwhile, moves up into P4. He's won the last 3 sprint races in a row, and he's going for number 4 this week in a row.
Some heavy contacts there between multiple drivers in that corner, and some of them getting even pushed off track here. It's going to be one of those things where front wings have to be preserved. And look at that 3-way action nearly into that turn and across the straight there. It's just chaotic circuit when the racing is so close. Obviously, these F2 cars are able to be kept sort of in the DRS train. They've got slightly less downforce. And so for Dan Moran, sort of sandwiched in between all of these cars, he's got to be a little bit nervous right now. Of course, Gareth Allen as well, really sort of throwing himself into the mix with this one. He said that he wanted to go out and annoy a couple of drivers, and he might be doing that already.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like I've immediately cursed him, so sorry, Gareth. He was right with the pack. Now he's down into P12. Dragonflies, meanwhile, current championship leader, moves up into P6, down the inside of Dan Moran, who immediately, because of the way the momentum shifts violently, he's now being absolutely hustled and harried by F1 Alex, as we now head on to lap number 3 of the Australian sprint race. Fastest lap for B-Roy as well.
Yeah, there was a really, really big moment from Punju there into that last turn. He got a snap of oversteer. I think he briefly put a wheel on the grass, so he managed to preserve his position, actually, so got away with it in the end. But my God, we have some on-track action here. We've got Hayden Gullis and Dragonflies, I think, going side by side. Dragonfly covers him off, but that pushes Hayden into a position where he might get overtaken by his teammate. He preserves it, or not teammate, same coloured car, put it that way. And it looks actually like after all of that kerfuffle, the drivers are in exactly the same positions as when they started that couple of turns action.
Another huge slide there in the background. You can't exactly say the drivers aren't pushing out there. Chesnoid within a second of B-Roy, though. It did look like B-Roy had the psychological advantage all the way up at the front and was getting away, but with DRS, slowly but surely, Chesnoid putting himself back as there's a lot of positions moving. Infratic moves ahead of F2 Scott. Guatz, who's in for Formula 2, that's one of the drivers who's moved down from Formula 1, was in the McLaren team, now in the Formula 2 Championship as, I believe it was no, it wasn't, it was, I thought it was Punju that moved up to F1. Never mind, he's here anyway. But still, down the inside, lots of battling still going on. Goodness me, they're trying to sort it out on the track, but switchbacks galore. You think you've got the move done, but the momentum you can carry through some of the corners just makes all the difference. As to the inside there, two cars side by side, they're going to be neck and neck all the way down the straight, but perhaps with the assistance of a bit of slipstream, Infratic looks like he can get it done.
Yeah, indeed, and he has got it done on Punju before the turn. Very, very good use of DRS, very good use of the multiple lines out of that last turn.
Off. Sorry, Dragonflies is off. I was sorry if I jumped in a little bit there. He just spun off. I saw some smoke, was wondering who it was. Disaster for the championship leader, and now he's side by side with the absolute titan that is Gareth Allen. He's gone through, and there's more kerfuffle going on. F2 Scott, Punju's round as well. What on earth has gone on there? At the flick of a switch, chaos has ignited here in Albert Park.
Yeah, chaos leads to chaos, and I think some of the drivers may be looking a bit distracted into those turns and potentially just getting their eye off the ball a little bit. And as we can see, Gareth Allen protecting against Dragonflies, who's trying to make his way up the leaderboard once again. This is not a way you want to go side by side, but it looks like Gareth Allen letting them by actually on with the DRS. So no choice. Oh, Dragonfly sideways. My God, a rally maneuver there, but just gets away with it. What an action-packed race so far, as we've got the lead pack as well in a battle.
Look at Dark Viper, he's already up to P3. We said he's won definitely the last 3. He's going for yet another one here. And after the clean sweep at Spa-Francorchamps, he's doing everything possible. Next target, Chesnoid Gaming in P2. But he has, luckily, the safety barrier that is B-Roy. He can hang on to his DRS, use that assistance to just propel himself along a bit more.
Indeed, yes, it's very, very important to use that DRS as he gets a 3-second time penalty. He went 4 wheels over the curb there, and that is not what you want to have when you're 4-way battling for the lead. And in fact, he might get overtaken around the outside. What a maneuver from Dark Viper GT. Incredible, judging that to perfection, to the millimeter, not touching the grass on the outside and getting the job done. And better still, he'll get DRS as well from the car in front. Just
bravery of the highest order from Dark Viper. Wouldn't be surprised if he got a track limits warning for that particular maneuver, but even so, what a great move. Chesnoid won't let this one go lying down, let's put it that way. There was a yellow flag.
It was a yellow flag, and I think it's Punju. No, it's not Punju. There is some sort of yellow flag. We cannot figure it out.
Well, the FIA clearly on something. But anyway, up at the front, Dark Viper, within half a second of B-Roy, another 3-second time penalty. You can ill afford to do that in the sprint race in particular. As off the track goes Chesnoid, a big mistake, allows his trident teammate, Adam Sanderson, through. And like we were saying, after the heartbreak of last week, He's looking to make big amends this week as there's a yellow flag. Hayden Gullis has had a moment. He's plummeted down the positions. Gareth Allen now back up into P10. What a guy, but
sending it.
goes Hayden Gullis. He's misjudged that completely and horribly. He just taps barrier with his right rear tyre. He's completely off kilter. No idea what's happened there. He's sauntering out onto the main straight, and well, I don't blame him. It's been a catalogue of disaster in those last few corners as we're on to lap 6 now.
Indeed, it looks like some sort of maybe frustration move, or indeed, possibly, and I think this might be the case, some sort of hardware problem as he is only just getting back up to pace. As Gareth Allen, unfortunately, mistaking the braking zone as well there, just trying to get the move done on Punju, but that has not worked out to his favour either. Action-packed and at the front as well. We've got a move for the lead. Dark Viper GT around the outside. Is he going to make it stick? Oh, too wide. You do not want to do it through there. And B-Roy got a penalty for that as well to add insult to injury. Overtaken around the outside, and I think he was forced to go over the curb there. And that one is going to be a controversial move then.
An outstanding overtake at first, but a mistake from Dark Viper into the right-hander at the end. B-Roy is all over his diffuser. It is absolutely... It is action-packed stuff. In Australia and wide goes Dark Viper again. B-Roy will accept that invitation. He's trying to go around the outside. Tell you what, he does go around the outside. That's lovely stuff there from B-Roy. But the battling is not done yet.
Indeed, indeed. Some drivers criticise this track for being a bit difficult to race at. It's producing some spectacular racing and spectacular driving so far. And I think we are very privileged to have such an action-packed race for this one. Every driver doing their best. And every time they seem to get the lead, they make a little bit of a mistake. B-Roy retakes the lead. And look at the car twitch. The grip is nowhere to be found at the moment. And he'll be vulnerable with the DRS once again.
Dancing around each of the corners. You can ill afford to do that, though, with how aggressive the tyre wear is, with how quickly the tyres heat up when you just push them over the limit. Dark Viper, again, with DRS, gunning for the lead of this sprint. Meanwhile, Infratic, again making moves. Dragonflies, well, to say it's not gone his way is a huge understatement. It's completely collapsed for him down in last place. He actually had another moment while we were looking at the Hayden Gullis moment happening, as there's a mistake from Chesnoid again. Adam Sanderson has dropped behind his teammate, but might well go for a move. Speaking of moves, B-Roy and Dark Viper going hammer and tong into Sector 3 as Dragonflies is out of the Australian Grand Prix. He must have had an incident. That's at the end of the fast right-hander. No safety car required. Deems the virtual FIA, which I think is virtually astonishing. But still, it remains as is up at the front after all that.
Indeed, it's quite, astonishing is the only word I can have. As we've got some too wide action here from teammates as well. Adam Sanderson wanting to get that position, and does he get it? Yes, indeed, he does get it, with Chesnoid Gaming making a little bit of a mistake, just getting on throttle too early, I think, trying to gain that position back. This track, the walls, as you can see them, very, very close to the racing circuit, so a mistake, especially out of the fast turns, can be absolutely devastating. For Dragonflies, it had gone from bad to worse. I think he had some wing damage, and he was not making any gains on Hayden Gullis, who's dropped back himself to P12, so... very, very difficult race for them, as I think we're about to have another battle for the lead.
Indeed we are. Hayden Gullis, meanwhile, has had another moment in Sector 3, dropping 30 seconds back. But this is the action we're all interested in. Dark Viper with DRS again. Here he goes through the fast chicane. Just got to keep it in the wheel tracks, using a lot of curb in the right-hander. Sets him up so nicely. And with a bit of DRS, some superb slipstream. He pulls to the outside, but B-Roy's going to try and defend that every which way. A lock-up from Dark Viper. There's another yellow flag. Hayden Gullis is having an absolutely torrid time here at this Australian Grand Prix. B-Roy, though, with a stout defence. He might have a penalty, but he says, I will win this one on the track.
Indeed, indeed. Sometimes, especially for the feature race later on, you want to have that psychological advantage of knowing that you had the performance that you could defend. Although Dark Viper GT is going to say to him, no psychological advantage for you. In fact, here's a lock-up breaker smoke screen, but B-Roy is having none of it through that turn. Incredible stuff. Dark Viper gets the DRS, so that is going to be that for... what? No, I said nothing. B-Roy is still going to chuck it up the inside, and oh, that was so close to a penalty as well. I think just going all the way over the curb. Whoa, these cars are just on the limit every single corner. I thought he was going to go straight off into the barrier there, but just a testament to the driving skill of all of these drivers. That was a very, very good recovery.
Couldn't agree more. We said it before as well. It's all about the psychology of the sprint. Not much time to make up positions, but do you bide your time? Is patience truly the virtue? And that's what we've been finding out throughout, as Hayden Gullis, his day goes from bad to categorically the worst it possibly could. 50 seconds back, a multitude of penalties. It's not gone his way. But luckily, this is not the only race of the day. There's plenty of time to make amends, as Chesnoid, meanwhile, all of that was happening, has moved back up into P3, past his teammate, albeit with a penalty next to his name. Speaking of penalties, F1 Alex has got one as well, as Chesnoid goes wide, and it's all kicking off in the track limits department. We've said that the braking zones are not the driver's friends round here. Been plenty of lockups this race, and so it continues.
Yes, indeed, and another person having a little bit of problems here is Punju. He's lost a couple of positions this lap, I think, and it's not going too well. However, the fighting at the front continues. We have to interject that little discussion there with some more just wheel-to-wheel racing. I find it incredible how they can keep so close together all the time without really impeding on each other's racing lines. Some very, very respectful driving. Oh, and that is, I think, is that Hayden Gullis just parked on the road? It is indeed.
It is Hayden Gullis. Good grief. What
that
an
is
absolute
never what
nightmare.
You want to see. Yeah, I'm sure he was just parked there thinking, what can I do? Just if he's made a mistake. And, oh, into the barrier. He has not lost a wheel. But he is getting in the way, I'd say, of some of the racing here. And it looks like his... I don't understand that one. He's just done a Formula Drift into there, almost as if his tyres are made of ice.
Yeah, it looked like the rear tyres completely gave up. Had that barrier incident. Look, just tried to turn in. The car didn't even slightly comply. Dark Viper into P1, but B-Roy is going to try and settle that score. Speaking of scores to settle, Gwatz is up into P5. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I hope it is. I'm sorry if it isn't, but F1 Alex is all over his gearbox. I'm going to try and unglue himself from that particular situation, but it looks like, actually, Gwatz, I hope that's pronounced right. Sorry.
I'm not quite sure, but he's done a good job at the moment, let's put it that way. And it looked like he had DRS in that one. So that was okay. Another battle. B-Roy looking to get the lead. Now it's all strategic with the DRS as well, as we have to pay attention to the number of laps left. 2 laps remaining. So you also want to question, do I want to be the lead driver or do I want to be the driver in P2 to get that DRS, get that slingshot? It looks like they're having quite a bit of trouble actually getting the overtakes done now in the 2nd and 3rd DRS zones.
Really? And you've completely summarised it correctly when you say that it's a mathematical battle. Hayden and Gullis, there's no words of consolation that we have anymore. It's a pity, really, and look, there's a feature race to make up for it. But you're right, mathematically, they have to kind of work out where they want to be, who wants to be behind at a particular point. They lost a lot of time on the last lap. Adam Sanderson made up about a second on the pair of them, so perhaps fighting Hammer and Tong a bit too much on that last lap, and they'd rather not drag themselves into a 4-car battle again. So hopefully, for their sake, they can keep it clean.
I think it might have been actually due to that car being stationary on the track and had to take avoiding action. Hayden Gullis had managed to get himself away, I think, before the second pack closed in. So that would equate to that time gained for them. But they're within visual distance, and that is a very, very key thing for drivers. You have to sort of have that mental image and literal pure image of the driver, which pushes you to go faster. And we've got Infratic and Punju going at it once again. Punju goes to the inside, not the confidence on the brakes though. However, over the curbs goes Infratic, losing a little bit of grip. Punju doesn't decide to commit to this one as we go on to the final lap for our lead duo, and they are still wheel to wheel.
Dark Viper's played the mathematical game then. He thinks, I want to be behind on this lap. If I'm to finish first on the track, and have the pure and perfect psychological advantage. This is what I need. Through the fast right-hander, they go in towards the DRS detection point very, very soon. B-Roy could well be a sitting duck, but Dark Viper has to get the good exit, and he has.
Indeed, he has, as we've got another yellow flag from Hayden. Shouldn't really play an effect into this one. They go too wide, side by side, so Dark Viper deciding, I need to go now. I need to be in the lead because this third DRS zone has not been effective for me. And he's got a considerable gap there of about 0.3 of a second. The overtakes that we've seen have been about 0.2 behind. So it looks like B-Roy has not got the traction. I know there's a penalty involved, but on-track battles are what we come to see here. And it looks like Dark Viper has got it done with Chesnoid Gaming. Oh, contact! Just clipping the rear wing and into the gravel trap. I thought he was going to be stuck there for a second, but it looks like he won't get out in front of G-Watts. And Dan Moran goes around... I'm not sure. Chesnoid Gaming and F1 Alex TTV gets around the... outside, and we've got a chaos. Dark Viper wins the race from B-Roy, and Adam Sanderson actually gets P2. I'm absolutely lost in my brain right now. So much happening.
That's excellent. Dark Viper, my metaphorical hat is tipped off to you, sir. Another sprint race win in the book. That makes it 4 in a row since the start of the Belgian Grand Prix. Adam Sanderson starting this week on the right foot. B-Roy, courageous racing. I applaud you. P3 in the end with a penalty. G-Watts, welcome to Formula 2, you're P4 in the sprint race. And F1 Alex rounding out the top 5. Disaster for Chesnoid at the last, though. All kicked off once again, like you say. Chaos tumbles and boulders into chaos. Hoodie Pete through the final corner. And then our very own Gareth Allen to round out the finishing order. Albeit without a front wing.
Well, you have to finish the race. That's the only thing that is needed, and he definitely did that. So yeah, well played to all of the drivers in this race. That was so entertaining. At the end of it, I did not know where to look, I will be honest. There was just so much good racing in there, and to choose between one of those two battles, honestly, almost impossible. And I think for all of the chaos that happened, some actually very, very clean racing, and a backflip to boot.
There you go, the podium celebrations. And with a bit of flair and panache, Dark Viper, necessarily dominant, but on the track, he did what he had to do. And it's the win in the sprint race. The question is now, can he continue it as he did all the way through last week? Can he continue this form? Because that's been probably my main talking point I wanted to go over, is just how strong Viper has been in the last few weeks.
Well, amazingly strong. The pace and consistency that he has showed is just incredible. And I think that, you know, to go up against a driver like that, it's like going up against Lolanoba, who we had before in F2. You have to be on your A game. You have to be absolutely committed every single braking zone, every single lap, including in qualifying. And it can be so difficult for that.
We killed the man, but not the idea, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as we all know, lobby will reset. We'll have a one-shot qualifying. Again, not much time, really, for the drivers to recuperate and regather themselves after that. All I can say is, what a sprint race that was.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the drivers were raring to go. The lobby was ready at the get-go. At literally on the dot at 30, they were into the zone, and you could tell it with the drivers. They were all... well, just absolutely on it from turn 1. Some very clean racing in lap 1. And it looked like the drivers really wanted to have a real go at making this track defy the expectations. And I think they certainly did that. That was a really interesting race. And it's very interesting, actually, how the DRS zones sometimes didn't come into effect too much.
Absolutely, no, I completely agree. I mean, it was a different dynamic that we saw as the race went on. You had the top 4 all jostling for position and jockeying it out, and then once those packs basically broke apart, it was a question of not tripping over each other. And yes, the Hayden Gullis-shaped barricade made that rather difficult at times. But at the same time, you know, they've also got the job to make sure they don't bring it back into a 4-car train, which I'm sure B-Roy and Dark Viper are glad they avoided in the end. But it was a fantastic race. Like you say, chaos brings on more chaos, brings on yet more chaos. And we got that in abundance here.
Indeed. I'm also watching them doing their little lobby thing in the background, and that is indeed chaos as well with Dodgem cars. For those of you who don't know, we restart the lobby so we can have a one-shot qualifying, which will be coming up next. And they just like to have a little bit of fun, get rid of the stress before that. Definitely a lot of stress in that one. I think B-Roy and Dark Viper will be wanting to get that heart rate down a little bit. For Hayden Gullis, obviously, he'll be wanting to have a redemption arc in this one. I think it all went wrong when he missed his braking zone, or there was an incident maybe that we didn't see off camera, and he seemed to just lose the zone, let's call it. As a driver, you want to get into a comfortable spot where you're looking to maximize your confidence in the car, maximize the time on the tracks, and a little incident sometimes can throw you off by a couple of tenths of a second, and that allows people past, that allows people to get DRS. And once that had happened, I think possibly maybe some damage came into effect, and the last thing that you want to do as a driver that's had a bad race is just park it in front of the lead pack. And I'm sure that was definitely not intentional, but it was the worst possible timing. And I feel bad for him, really, because he was just sat there not being able to do anything as a driver, just hoping that nobody crashed into him. And luckily, the driver seemed to avoid him, so no harm done. But wow, what a... just added to the climax of the race, I think.
Exactly. Absolutely right. Again, I feel quite sorry for Hayden Gullis. He's had a good run of feature race results in particular that I was going to highlight. Had the 4th place in Singapore, missed Hungary 2 weeks ago. And then last week he got 3rd. He got a podium in the feature race. So strong in the feature races. Sprint race, slightly squandered. But we'll ignore the sprint race. There is still plenty of time to rectify things. But I think even more to add to that climax, championship leader Dragonflies might not even be in the championship lead anymore after those results come about, but that is, like you say, not the way you want to start your race weekend in the slightest.
Well, especially with his championship rival at the moment winning that sprint race. No, of course not. That's points that you need to find somewhere. And okay, there's a lot of points still available, especially with the feature races, but we're getting to the stage in the championship where you have to start scoring and outscoring your rivals just to create that little gap of comfort. Because in such a tense environment where you're fighting just for these little points and just to get across the line to that championship, your nerves can take a hit, and then that affects your driving a bit like an incident would, basically. And that can have a really detrimental effect on just mentally and psychologically going into a race, especially if in qualifying, for example, you end up botching your lap and you have to start behind them. So working your way up and not being able to finish the sprint race is definitely a detriment to them. But one thing's for sure is that there's not only 2 drivers in this championship, there are at least 6 drivers, which would take me too long to name, but at least 6 of them that I think are capable of winning this feature race. And I think qualifying is going to be oh so sweet to watch, in that the gaps normally are hundredths of a second.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the thing is, we saw it in the sprint race quite a few times. A lot of drivers struggling with braking, in particular, going a bit long. And when you have a one-shot qualifying lap, when you have just one singular chance in order to make an impression, you cannot afford to go long on the brakes. And with the track limits being as strict as they are, the last thing you want to do is invalidate your lap. Notoriously, the fall is always much quicker than the climb is. So, if anything, if you're going to fall, do it just a tiny bit. Don't go all the way down.
Or do it in a way that slows other drivers down so you don't have to make up the time. But that's quite tricky to do, or may not have experience with that in the past. We'll gloss over that. But definitely the drivers will be looking to sort of perfect the braking zones. That's one thing that you can't really practice apart from in a lobby, apart from in a racing environment, because when you're doing time trial laps, you don't practice necessarily the braking lines when you're side by side, or a compromised line through the corners. So that wheel-to-wheel racing that you sometimes see is normally quite difficult for newcomers or drivers that are used to, for example, racing in career mode versus AI. The reactions of real drivers are sometimes quite different, as I think we are about to go into the qualifying lap in just a second. Wait for it. And here we go. It's still dry. That's good news.
No weather playing its part this week. The script writes itself. It's sunny down under. Fantastic stuff. 25 seconds, maybe even a bit less, until we get underway with the single flying laps in qualifying to decide the feature race grid. Can Dark Viper add another pole position to his tally? Well, all the drivers have had 12 laps to get their iron in braking zones, but it could be interesting. We'll find out in a moment.
Indeed. As the timer hits 0, the tension rises, and here they are on track then. We are on board with Adam Sanderson, then we will choose Adam Sanderson to go here, and that's an interesting line from Adam Sanderson right there, or is that Dark Viper?
Dark Viper?
It is Dark Viper. He's gone from... is he starting from the back then? Is he doing a challenge?
Well, it looks like it. Tell you what, if you ever needed a psychological beatdown, he's saying, you know what, I think I can win from the back of the grid. The court is yours,
to come over that. What a chance to come across that. Just selecting the one driver who would choose to do that. Well, I'll take it as a commentator. I'll take the credit for that. No worries. But on board with the drivers then, it's looking like it's quite close as we see time swapping with F1 Alex going to the front of the pack for the moment. Got to nail these DRS zones, get the DRS open as soon as possible. It's no longer like in the past, you can't keep the DRS open through certain corners, so at least they don't have to contend with the loss of downforce, which used to be quite tricky to watch and to drive, presumably. But it's looking like a solid lap from GWATS at the moment in second place. This Sector 3, though, so tense, and it looks like he's overcooked it a little bit in there. Can he get a good end to the lap? It's looking quite consistent always with these cars, and he's gone into first place actually momentarily on the grass. Commentator's curse, can you believe it? He's just overcooked it, and I think that might have cost him P1.
The king of the commentator's curse slams his scepter into the side of GWATS, but F1 Alex on pole position by over 3.5 tenths of a second. GWATS does hang on to P2. Dragonflies might have a very subdued sprint race. However, in qualifying at least, he's put himself at the front of the second row. Meanwhile, in the case of Dark Viper, and maybe even F2 Scott, they're thinking, you know what, back of the grid, there's plenty to play for in this race.
Indeed. It's going to be interesting to see whether that was a decision or whether that was an invalidation that happened at the start of the lap, which we didn't see. So F1 Alex on pole, GWATS second place, Dragonflies reigniting the championship hopes with that third place there. Chesnoid Gaming and Adam Sanderson still nothing to play for with just 1/1000th of a second, may I say, between them both. B-Roy not demonstrating the pace he had in the first race. Punju, a good improvement with Infratic in 8th place. Gareth Allen, a spectacular effort for him. And we actually have 2 disqualifications with F1 Scott as well being disqualified. Hayden Gullis not setting a lap time either. Interesting, that one.
Well, there you are. Qualifying done and dusted. Our very own Gareth Allen, by the way, P9. Just wanted to highlight that. Only a 10th off Infratic. How about that? Well done, Gareth Allen. But immediately, wake up, everyone. It's race day. That was quick, wasn't it? We're waiting in the pit lane, and now we turn our attention more to the stipulations of the race. Of course, we've got the immensely, ferociously quick Dark Viper at the back of the grid. We've got F1 Scott at the back. A couple of drivers displaced on the grid, but maybe some strategy can come into play today.
Indeed, strategy will be of utmost importance with the... presumably DRS trains, there's 3 DRS zones, but also with just trying to get some clean air, trying to get some more stability in the car. This is one of those tracks that's very rear limited according to the drivers, so you'll be wanting to just not have those on-track battles that cook your tires, that really sort of just drain the energy out of your racing. They'll be wanting to have some clean moves and just, well, for the leaders anyway, just clear off into the distance, presumably.
Indeed. Well, it's very hot here, but it compares nothing to the heat of competition. It's 5 red lights. Lights out and away we go, and we'll see what kind of start F1 Alex got, and it's a good start on the soft tyres, crucially. GWAT switching to the outside. We'll see if they make it all the way through the first 2 corners safely. GWAT slotting into P2, cars side by side all over the place. Adam Sanderson displacing his teammate. Infratic says thank you very much. Up into P5 I go. GWAT's though going down the inside, or at least trying to open up that avenue for himself, but not quite getting there. As a whole host of positions, there's chaos into turn 3. Dan Moran is spun round, and he has to recuperate himself. That is not the ideal start whatsoever.
No, indeed not. And for a driver that had struggled in the first races, I think we saw Gareth Allen there going rear entry into that turn, just reverse entry. Not the quickest line there. But yeah, this race has been a little bit more argy-bargy at the start. Some drivers trying maybe to settle some scores as we've still got a battle for the lead here. GWAT's not wanting F1 Alex to get away with that. Very, very sad though for Dan Moran in that one. I think he might have got spun around in that, but it was so close. There were 2 or 3 cars making contact in there, so very difficult to say from our perspective. As F1 Alex just defends, GWAT's got the inside Dragonflies, looking like he wants a piece of the action as well. So this is going to be a mighty turn 1 and a mighty sector 1 here. Chaos potentially.
It's brewing. You can feel it happening. 6 cars line astern then as we head on to lap number 2. Hoodie Pete has just disconnected himself slightly from this train. Plenty of battling was happening in the background at the beginning of that first lap. F1 Alex has the fastest lap and the lead, but for how long? GWAT is all over the back of him. He's like a Rottweiler. He's absolutely ferocious and relentless. Looks to the outside. A lockup, though, is going to let Dragonflies try and sweep round the outside. Use those soft tyres. He hasn't got much time before the crossover. Through goes Dragonflies into P2.
Oh yes, and GWAT slams the door on Adam Sanderson, who was having a little look there. Very, very tricky, obviously, to start on those harder compound tyres. You just feel like you are at a disadvantage, which you are at initially. But perhaps will that strategy come into play if he can stick with the softer compound runners in this initial phase of the race. Although it's looking like F1 Alex is getting away with the DRS gap here. This is the danger of fighting, is that you let the driver in front get that lead, get that gap, which he has of 1 second just. And as he goes for a move, no, Dragonflies covers it off. Very, very well done. Oh, a huge oversteer out of that turn and a little bit of contact. Maybe a piece of front wing lost. I don't think so. But that was very, very close to disaster there for GWAT and a few other drivers. And even more sideways action. Maybe just asking a little bit too much from those harder compound tyres. And this has put them under huge pressure for turn 1.
Deary me, GWAT has not had the rub of the green, and now it's going to be 3 abreast in towards turn 1. Play nicely, boys. Infratic ducks out of it, and round the outside goes Adam Sanderson. They're still going to be neck and neck, though. Towards turn number 3, there's a yellow flag in sector 3. Dan Moran's having more problems, but we're focused on the battle here. GWAT defends from Adam Sanderson. Round the outside goes Infratic. Fantastic stuff. The 2 teammates working together, and it's paid off handsomely. 3rd and 4th for PHM.
I will say, Infratic appearing out of absolutely nowhere on my radar there. He's really made a few good moves here, just waiting for some of the drivers to have collisions or little bits of contact, get them offline, a little bit destabilized, and he's just used that opportunity to carve his way through the pack and looking to get himself up into a provisional podium position here, which would be absolutely sensational for Infratic. But however, it's 2 teammates. You don't particularly want to have a collision. But however, will they elect to swap the drivers around, seeing as they're on a different strategy? I have no idea. I think most racers will say, I'm racing my own race if you want to get past me, as both of them go way offline. And this might actually allow Adam Sanderson to get up the inside of both of them. For GWAT, he's lost 3 positions there in one corner, as we have a spinner at the back. It's Hoodie Pete off into the gravel. That is terrible. And a safety car is deployed.
It was debris absolutely everywhere. Hoodie Pete gives a nudge to our own Gareth Allen for good measure. And a severe collision, 10-second penalty. Well, if that was a severe collision, I was born in France, which, well, is certainly not the case. But into the pits comes Hoodie Pete with his tail hanging in between his legs. And now it makes things rather interesting because as the soft tyre runners Do you now make that executive decision to go straight on to that harder compound, use your one pit stop, and hope there isn't another safety car, and guarantee yourself a free ticket through the rest of this race? Serving his 10 seconds penalty as Hoodie Pete, now the front wing mechanics can get to work, as into the bits also comes Dan Moran. And we can just relax a tiny bit, as the field will turn into a procession behind the safety car here on lap 3.
Indeed, just taking a look at the tyre strategies here. So both of them going on to the harder compound tyre. But crucially for Dan Moran, that means that he's going to have to make an extra pit stop to use both compounds of tyres. So that race strategy is now compromised.
Is that another driver with a front wing I saw of? I thought I saw a Red Bull liveried car without a front wing. Was that Punju, possibly? I don't know. I thought I saw a front wing off. I could be wrong. I might well be wrong. But anywho, under the safety car we go. F1 Alex has the lead on the softs. Dragonflies also on the softs in second. All of these drivers on the softs, like we say, have this crucial decision to make. Do they dare to make that stop? And yes, I was right. It wasn't Punju, though. It was, in fact, F2 Scott without a front wing. So that might well have been what happened there. It looks like he might well have made contact with Hoodie Pete. We saw carbon fiber exploding all over the track, and that might well be the reason.
There's a few drivers that have been off into the gravel trap on this lap as well. You could see the tyre tracks that had been left. So some interesting incidents behind the safety car here, and I think there's about a few people about to get some penalties here. And indeed, I don't know what's gone on there. I think they've had to just slow down to avoid either going over their delta or something along those lines. We don't have access to that information here, but some shenanigans going on during the safety car as well, just to keep us on our toes.
The age-old illegal overtake gremlins at work here in the feature race. A couple of drivers did go into the pits. Dragonfly's one of them. Trying to make up, obviously, for a less than superb sprint race. He's down in P9 now. Infratic in P10 also pit, as did Adam Sanderson. F2 Scott, well, didn't really have a choice but to pit without a front nose. There's less downforce than my commentary table, but now he does have downforce again, which is the good news. He'll rejoin in plumb last, but crucially for him, still in this race, as Hayden Gullis is overtaking Gareth Allen on the track. Are those illegal overtake gremlins still going on? Or is Gareth Allen getting racy behind the safety car?
Some interpretive tire warming strategies, let's put it that way. A great way to get your tires up to temperature is to just go racing behind the safety car. I'm sure that's what the FIA had intended with all of this maneuvering. It's a hardware issue, I'm being told.
No, I'm kidding. I'm covering for Gareth here, saying it's a hardware issue. Who knows if it is? Let's just say it is for his sake. But anyway, they all line up astern then. I imagine we'll have one more lap of safety car until the field is all bunched up together in a nice little caterpillar, and then we shall get underway for yet more racing in the feature race. And the question is, have those safety car boys who have made that pit stop, have they played a blinder? Because if there is another safety car, and if there's one after only 3 or 4 laps, there could well be. It could go to pot for them, but that is all things we're going to find out.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is that the soft tyre runners are almost wanting to get off of those soft tyres. And indeed, the only soft tyre runner that has not pitted during this safety car is the leader, F1 Alex, the only person in this race left on the soft compound tyres. He's used those tyres from the start of the race, and every driver behind him up to P9 is on the tyres that they started the race, but the harder compound tyres, the rest of the field has pitted for a new set of the harder compound tyres. So this strategy of this race has been completely blown wide open by this, and it'll be interesting to see if F1 Alex can hold off the pack until his pit stop strategy. But it looks like what was developing into a comfortable lead for him has suddenly been inverted and is now turning into a tiny bit of a disadvantage, according to me.
It does look like it, initially. I mean, I don't blame the drivers that have pit for going onto those tyres. I mean, yes, absolutely, get off the soft tyres. They wear down immensely quickly, but at the same time, if the opportunity opens up for that free pit stop, why would you not use it? That is the main thing. On board with F2 Scott, then, as he races his way to the back of this
He's going to have
train
to get
of
a move
cars,
on.
safety car, in this lap. He is indeed going to have to get a move on. You are quite right. So the field can bunch up. It's now down to Mr. F1 Alex to dictate the pace of the field and when he pulls the trigger. And then we go back racing. John, take it away, my friend.
Indeed, indeed. And as you can see, the tire warming has begun. The strategy games, the psychological games. And we've got someone that's spun around. It's Punju. I cannot quite believe it. Punju has spun during the safety car, warming the tires. That is the worst thing you can do. I'm absolutely just gobsmacked by that. I have not seen that happen in a long, long time. I think it might have been was it Valtteri Bottas in China at some point that spun after a safety car? I think it might have been George Russell, actually. But indeed, as F1 Alex, after all of that turmoil, gets the racing underway, and it looks like actually he's got a huge restart and a huge lead. It's looking like the drivers behind him will be battling for second place at the moment. Can he conserve those tires? Can he get that traction, that turn in, to just create a gap and make his life a little bit easier? I'm expecting him to pit maybe at the end of this lap even, or is he going to extend because of those safety car 2 or 3 laps that have allowed him to preserve the tires a little bit? Your guess is as good as mine currently.
B-Roy and Infratic with problems. Infratic's dropped right to the back of the order. I was about to say second down to 5th. They're all tripping over themselves initially, but it looks like they've all sorted it out. Look who's in 5th. It's Gareth Allen. This is absolutely fantastic, but the new tyre runner of Dragonflies, good grief, they've caught up quickly. Was in 9th place already, has ascended up 3 places, and now is looking for P5. It's on his radar. He pulls out to the outside with a dose of slipstream to boot. Tries to get the outside, but Gareth Allen shuts the door on that opportunity. F1 Alex, though, already with a 1.2 second lead. Dragonflies, meanwhile, making up for lost time. Gareth Allen crowding him towards the grass. Will Dragonflies have enough grip when he gets to the right-hander? The answer is absolutely he will. Gareth Allen slides. Adam Sanderson, the innocent party. Front wing damage, look at the left end plate, has come clean off. And again, an innocent bystander moment. He had quite a few last week, did Adam Sanderson. He's had another one here in Australia, and there's chaos happening back behind.
B-Roy in the wall as well coming out of that last turn. I don't think he got damaged, but that will be a severe knock to the confidence. And this has been, well, I thought it wasn't going to be chaos, but it certainly has become chaos. As towards the front now, we've got a fight for second place. Chesnoid Gaming defending from Dark Viper GT, and it looks like he might try the switch back. He's sort of got it done around the outside. Can he keep a wheel in there? Not quite. The door is closed shut firmly here, and he'll have to wait another straight at least, but he is looking ever so racy here, and he's looking to the left, looking to the right. Is there any gap? Not quite at the moment. Chesnoid Gaming doing a huge defense here. He has got a penalty though, so what he's doing now is just making life difficult for Dark Viper, and I think just proving indeed just for his own morale, for his own spirit, that he can fight at the front. However, the possibilities to collect penalties around here are endless, so we'll have to wait and see with over half race distance to go.
Only 2 penalties incurred so far. Chesnoid Gaming and Hoodie Pete are the offenders on that particular part, but Dark Viper releases himself into the wilderness of clean air, and he is now on the charge for P1. We'll see what the tyre life on the mediums now is like. Now that he has that clean air, we'll see how much he can reel in that advantage. Again, absolute chaos happening behind, as there's a conglomeration of cars dueling it out between Gareth Allen all the way down to Dan Moran, maybe even Hoodie Pete getting involved as well. On to lap 9 in this Grand Prix, and F1 Alex is into the pit lane.
Indeed, I was trying to get him on the car selection, but he was dropping down the pack way too quick. Indeed, that is not great news, because some of these runners will try and get to the end. B-Roy is slowing down here in a straight line. What's happened to B-Roy? He looks to have a technical problem, perhaps. He's wiggling the wheel quite a bit, and I'm not sure what's going on there, but his pace has dropped off significantly in the last couple of laps, and it's looking like he's not accelerating, well, to 100%, I'd say, out of the corners briefly there. It looks like he's back up to speed there, so quite a weird one going on.
GWAT's moving up, as is Dragonflies. Chesnoid's just plummeted down 2 positions. GWAT's on the move. Dragonflies on those new tyres is on the move, and he'll be feeling like he's got the prime golden ticket in his clutches. Again, looks to the outside, thinks much more sensibly about that one. Uses the curb. Again, gets himself straightened up. And can he go for another move into this right-hander? He did it a couple of laps ago. He's looking for it again, but not going for the move. Again, so many lockups happening. Just no one a fan of the braking zones. Maybe their front tyres also beginning to cook themselves a little bit more, especially in the case of Dark Viper out in front.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Dark Viper just trying to pull away, and I think Dark Viper in the pits. That's an interesting one. So going for an alternative strategy, trying to cover off F1 Alex. Obviously, a lot of drivers presuming that they can't get to the end of the race on this one. Ironically, Dragonfly setting the fastest lap, proving that there is a lot of life left in those tires. So an interesting choice there for our main two contenders at the start of this race, I'd say. F1 Alex really got a mountain to climb, as you can see. And we've got a retirement in Dan Moran.
In the wall. Safety. Oh, F1 Alex, my heart breaks for you. And Punju's now got a penalty for a severe collision with Gareth Allen. Don't touch Gareth Allen's car, ladies and gentlemen. The stewards will look upon you very dishonourably. Another safety car. And I've got to say now, if you're F1 Alex and you came into the pits a lap or two before that safety car, my heart breaks for you. If you just weathered the storm a couple more laps, you would have been in a prime position. But no, he's down at the back of the grid. And we'll return to a procession here. Over halfway through this feature race, GWAT's currently with the lead, but surely he has to come into the pits. Meaning, despite being the absolute zero in the sprint, as there's interesting games going on between Punju and Gareth Allen, but nonetheless, hardware issues or tyre warming strategies aside, Dragonflies will surely have the lead of this race and become an absolute hero.
Indeed, indeed. The race turned once again on its head by a safety car, and I wouldn't be surprised if I actually saw drivers pitting for some softer compound tyres. There is a silver lining for F1 Alex and Dark Viper, although it might not be the optimum strategy. At least they catch up to the pack. And will we see drivers in the pits? Yes, we do. Most drivers of the front pack coming into a pit. Some people staying out, though. Dragonflies deciding that, well, track order is much better than fresher tyres. An interesting one where you can indeed overtake. This is all about confidence and about strategy, as most of our drivers actually are in the pit lane right now with their various tyre choices. Oh, Chesnoid Gaming being held quite a long time in the pits, and I think losing a couple of positions as a result.
All systems go in the pit lane then. Meanwhile, if you're Dragonflies, Adam Sanderson, and look who's in P3. It's F2 Scott. He had no front wing during the first safety car, came into the pits, was plumb last, now finds himself in the podium position when all is said and done. And those top three don't have penalties next to their name either. They are in the hot seat in Australia, where it's already hot enough, so I feel for them. But equally, they are in the best placed position to reap the rewards.
Do I sense a grandstand finish here? I think I sense a grandstand finish. In any case, with only 6 laps remaining once they cross the line in a minute, it's going to be pure and utter chaos, because the drivers will know they have very limited opportunities to change their race results, to change their luck, to change the standings in the championship. And sometimes that can lead to chaos, sometimes it can lead to some absolutely fantastic racing. Either of those two, I think I'll take.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. Tell you what as well, when it comes to championship stipulations, Dragonflies began the week on 140, only 4 points between himself and F1 Alex. And I can scarcely believe I'm saying this after how categorically, shambolically the sprint race went for him. But after all of this, he might well come out having extended his championship lead. Would you believe that?
Well, definitely, I'd say it's a bit early to say that. After all that we've seen, I wouldn't expect another... Well, I would actually expect another twist in this race. I wouldn't put it past anybody to just, well, try and gain positions here. Obviously, when you've got fresh tyres, you know that you don't have that amount of laps. You can actually use the tyres to their absolute full potential. It means that the racing is more aggressive. The braking, you'll try and go deeper into the braking zone. And if you slide the car a little bit, it doesn't really matter as long as you gain that track position. So Dragonfly's definitely in prime position at the moment However, Dark Viper GT is not that far away, and F1 Alex, with the pace that he has demonstrated in this race already, they could all concertina up into one great big giant ball of chaos at the front of this pack.
It is going to get spicy, ladies and gentlemen. We are sowing the seeds of pure, unbridled, unfiltered chaos to happen in these last few laps as Gareth Allen takes an exploration of Albert Park's track limits on his way to the back of the safety car queue on a fresh set of soft tyres. Punju not too far behind, just making their way up to the back of this train. Possibly safety car will be in this lap. I doubt it will be.
It doesn't look like it.
I was going to say, given that the rest of the field hasn't really had the time to properly bunch up. We've got Hayden Gullis as well, 7 seconds behind. So a bit of time, just another lap, I imagine, and then we will go back racing here for a 4-lap shootout from the gods down under. This could get very interesting.
Indeed, indeed. So just a tyre update here. We have Dragonflies all the way down to Hoodie Pete on that set of harder compound tyres they had selected. And Hayden Gullis has front wing damage. I just want to point that out as I pass by that little detail. Maybe something occurred in the pit stops there, perhaps. And so after Hoodie Pete's GWAT's down to last place, which is Punju at the moment. They all have fresh tyres on the car, most of them going as predicted for a set of softer compound tyres. The only person being Infratic, really, that has the harder compound tyres on, with F1 Alex and indeed Dark Viper on a couple of laps older tyres, and that might make a difference. F1 Alex on the harder compound tires as well. So this is all converging strategies. I really can't pick one that is better than the other. It's all going to come down to, once again, confidence and just the ability to get yourself in the right place at the right time and make those moves count.
Predictions, people. Let us know what you think. It could be anyone's game here in the last few laps, the last few tours of the Albert Park circuit here in Australia. And there's many reasons, of course. We've talked about tyres endlessly during this safety car period, of course. But F1 Alex at the head of the train on proper new tyres, although Chesnoid and GWAT's ahead also had that advantage. They will have the confidence. They will have just a little bit more power and ability to brake later in their possession, as the safety car will be in at the end of this lap, with this time Dragonflies commanding the Caterpillar. The hungry Caterpillar, because there's a lot of blood in the water for a lot of these drivers to try and snuff out. So we wait patiently with bated breath on board with Adam Sanderson, just getting that last bit of heat into his tyres, but equally trying not to get himself caught out here. The more you weave, yes, the more heat you get into your tyres, but the more opportunity for the leader to just bolt it in a straight line, get the traction, and then suddenly you're on the back foot all over again, but getting very racy indeed. We have, once they cross the line, just 4 tours of the Albert Park circuit to go as Adam Sanderson gets very racy, and it's caught him out. Dragonflies drops anchor, foot to the floor, and we are back racing here in Formula 2 in the feature race. And can F2 Scott immediately make an impression? Can GWAT's behind make a sterling impression? He's going for it down the inside of Hoodie Pete, has to duck back into the slipstream. Maybe a setup difference. Or, well, who knows what else it could be, but he just goes right round the outside instead. Slight contact, though. It allows Chesnoid through. It allows F1 Alex through. It might allow Dark Viper through as well. It's the worst possible restart for Hoodie Pete. Maybe not the worst possible, but it's certainly not ideal as he plummets down the order. B-Roy getting racy on the inside, contact made. And spinning round goes Hoodie Pete. And a huge contact once again. Infratic retires immediately from the session. Humongous contact made, and I cannot believe it. It's yet another safety car here to curtail racing proceedings in Australia again.
Well, safety car leads to safety car, damage leads to damage, and collision leads to collision. The trifecta of certainties in Formula Racing remains true, and unfortunately that means another safety car period with only 4 laps remaining. This could be coming down to a 1-lap sprint at the end. The possibilities are endless indeed. It was an unfortunate incident for Hoodie Pete. Caught on the inside of that corner. He just went over the curb, and obviously that unsettled the car. And he got a little bit of oversteer, which compromised again his speed on exit. And after that, it was just being passed left, right, and centre. Really not his fault. He was just trying to recover some speed. And then every driver smelling blood, really, and just trying to throw the car into the corner. Some collision with B-Roy there. I must admit, from B-Roy, that was a little bit brave in terms of the manoeuvring. And unfortunately, that put Hoodie Pete into a spin right into the path of Infratic and other drivers. And that has unfortunately resulted in our second DNF of the race so far. But for every other driver still in the race, it's another chance at redemption.
Comes Hoodie Pete. Surprisingly, in comes Dark Viper as well. They're taking a very long time to service that car. No idea what's happened.
10-second penalty.
Exactly.
I saw the 10-second penalty just as the safety car appeared. So he's serving that penalty. That's the only way he can get back into the race, is to get another set of tyres on the car, which I think is another fresh set of tyres. And serving that penalty so that you don't have to serve it on track. And now every overtake that he does is a legitimate overtake for position, although it's looking like he does not have too much grip on those cold tires coming out of the pits. One thing you don't want to do is drop the car straight away coming out of the pits, especially under safety car. As for the rest of the drivers, apart from Hoodie Pete, they are already bunched up behind the safety car. I don't think safety car is coming in this lap, but possibly on the next one.
Certainly be interesting if it did. And
speaking
of which, the script writes itself here in Australia. Dark Viper and Hoodie Pete had better get a move on, because it's not long until Dragonflies drops anchor once again and soars on into the lead and maybe into the distance. At least that's what he'll hope. To add on to, John, your point, B-Roy was the optimism overlord there, but it felt like a B-Roy Jenkins moment, as I'm going to call it. Slightly optimistic is the way I'll put it, because it wasn't quite all the way alongside. But anyway, let's see when Dragonflies drops anchor. John, over to you.
Yes, indeed. Well, Adam Sanderson got really confident and aggressive there going alongside, but Dragonflies really took advantage of that last restart. And once again, I think it's happened, but to a lesser extent this time. Just weaving, and Dragonflies saw in the rearview mirror, perhaps, or on the indicator that he has on board, that there was some weaving going on, and used that opportunity to just plant the throttle and get a very clean restart. This one very good for all drivers, apart from Hoodie Pete, who has not been able to catch the field, sadly. So that has, kind of a disastrous restart for him, as we've got battles for P3 and for P5 at the moment. Most drivers looking to just get that one racing position back, as we've only got 2 laps to go in this race. Chaos right until the end, and into the wall goes F1 Scott, and potentially damage on the car. That is, well, the double whammy right there, just getting a little bit of understeer, it looked like, on those harder compound tyres, and that will not leave him with much confidence going into this tight left and right-hander chicane.
It's certainly 3 seconds. It's the last thing he wanted. Doesn't look like any damage externally, but it could get worse for him emotionally, because G-Watts is on the move round the outside with soft tyres, and that's a lovely move from G-Watts into P3. Has descended into Formula 2, but he's taken it by storm for PHM. But he has to do a bit of defending. F2 Scott not giving this up without a fight. But goodness me, it really is. It's an absolutely bonkers battle all the way through. By the way, for those of you wondering, it isn't a safety car, it's a UI issue. There isn't a safety car on track. Just wanted to clear that up. 6 cars, again line astern. I feel like it's deja vu as we head on to the last lap of the Australian Grand Prix.
Indeed, they've put out the safety boards just in case it happens again. You know, preventative measures, and with all of these cars so close, it could happen again. We've got an almighty exit out of turn 1 from G-Watts, and it looks like he's going for that second place. Can he get it done? Is the gap going to be closed? No, the door is left open, and he goes for it, locking the brakes a little bit. Got it stopped on the apex, though, giving just about a car's width, and that is a clean overtake into second place. Does he have enough time to catch Dragonflies for the overall race win? This would be for position, as we've got battles also going on in the background. Way too much action to catch up on.
Just a few fleeting moments left of this Australian feature race, and F2 Scott, the score is not settled between himself and Adam Sanderson in this particular case. He might have the penalty, but he wants the momentum on the track, but it's just gonna give up the opportunity to Chesnoid Gaming. Down the inside he goes, and he's through into P4. Lovely stuff there. Great work from the Trident boys. We're watching this battle up at the front all the way through. F1 Alex trying to make a move in the background. G-Watts is gonna go round the outside, and I tell you what, he could have the lead of this race, but there's still a few corners to go. Holding the inside is Dragonflies. G-Watts takes the lead of the feature race. He's broken the sound barrier in my case, and he's broken through to the top of the pack. In the last few moments of this feature race, he makes his mark on Formula 2 in the best possible way, and G-Watts wins the feature race here in Australia. Dragonflies takes home P2 in the end.
Oh,
the
contact
soft
at the
tyres
back.
did everything they needed to do. There was contact. Spinning round goes Punju. Gareth Allen makes the top 10. Punju doing well. It's a 10 out of 10 reverse finish from the crowd. Hoodie Pete will round out our order. What an end to this Australian Grand Prix. And in some style, G-Watts wows. The oohs and ahs come out in the commentary box. I'm absolutely certain about that. What a splendid end to this feature race.
That race had a grandstand finish written all over it, and the drivers certainly delivered. What I have goosebumps, quite literally. It's an incredible scene to see drivers using all of their skill to do clean overtakes, do as much as they can to get side-by-side action, and no driver wanted to yield in that last lap, but G-Watts just being perfect, just having perfection in braking and getting those last couple of turns, and especially that braking zone after the last DRS zone, just going around the outside. And what can you say? Just to perfection, a perfect delivery, and definitely deserves that race. A true return to form for someone who has been struggling in the past, not only in the Formula 1 stuff, but in a couple of races in F2, and he's definitely come back on top with that one. Incredible, incredible stuff, but so many good drives that I could point out in this race. I think this one has been an absolute cherry on top of the cake.
G-Watts was consistent all the way through. I felt like he went quite under the radar towards the end of that race, but strapped on the soft tyres, made the moves where it mattered. And you know what, honestly, it makes it all the more sweet when in the final few moments of a race, you manage to prize the race lead away from someone and come across the line at the front of the pack. I mean, there's almost no sweeter a feeling. And that's what Formula 2 does best. Chaos all the way through. Fantastic battles, moments of drama, moments of controversy. It has it in abundance, and that's why we love it so much.
Most definitely. I wouldn't even know where to begin for a scenario of driver of the day. We had so many. You'd have to give out 3 or 4 drivers of the day for every individual race that we had between the safety cars. We had F1 Alex doing an amazing job at the front, just getting caught out with that initial 2 safety cars, really, and the strategy behind it. Then we had G-Watts just carving his way through the pack. We had Dragonflies just being opportunistic as well with his timing of tire choice. And wow. Yeah, no words to describe the stellar racing that we have seen. Unfortunate for people like Infratic, like Hoodie Pete, and Hayden Gullis as well, getting involved in many, many incidents there, sadly. But just an incredible, incredible job from everybody there, and I'm sure the drivers will all have a smile on their face after that one, regardless of the result.
Absolutely. Phenomenal racing all the way through. Last week, it was Dark Viper domination. This week, G-Watts greatness. That was absolutely beautiful. Tell you what, though, top of the championship-wise, I mean, it's got quite the damage limitation, really. But at the end of the day, they made a good recovery, I think, overall, especially Dragonflies after what was a suboptimal Spa and a very less than sensational sprint race. Made good inroads in the feature race. I think he'll come away from this week relatively happy, I'd say.
Yes, indeed. It could have been a lot worse. I think this is one of those races where the championship rivals didn't score many many points really when they could have. Dragonflies obviously being opportunistic, taking that opportunity to score the points, and that's exactly what we said he had to do. He will increase his championship lead, as you said, but encouraging for other drivers like F1 Alex, Adam Sanderson, Dark Viper GT. They all have the pace to succeed. They all have the opportunity still to clinch this championship. I think we have time for some interviews from, first of all, our race winner. If I can drag him into the commentary box. We shall see. I
didn't have to say his name all the way through the broadcast, but I certainly will now. G-Watts, congratulations. That was an absolutely phenomenal drive. Well done, you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, mate. It was yeah, it was very lucky. Obviously, well, condolences to Viper specifically, because if I was ahead of him, I probably would have pitted on the same lap. So that's just how it goes. But yeah, I had the chance to do it. I'm quite confident in my overtaking ability. So yeah, luckily I got the chance. But it was very lucky, I think. But yeah.
Absolutely. Can I just allude? Obviously, like you say, you made the moves, and that's at the end. It was spellbinding. It was wonderful. But also, how sweet was that? How sweet was it to come round those final few corners and to just get the lead right at the death?
Yeah, obviously, got promoted in the playoffs. Went to F1, and it's very, very sweaty. I think this does show today if people watch at home and they think F1's not that hard. I was like a bench warmer in F1. I won here today, so I think that shows the standard of F1. It was after having, I don't know if I can swear on here, but after having some very bad races, it was nice to come back to F2 anyway. I would have been happy finishing last. I had such a good time, but it was it was very, very good feeling.
How much, I've got a question because we had quite a few safety cars in that one. How much does it affect your confidence or the ability to regain the pace? Because after every single safety car, you were making up the positions, you were doing all that you needed to do to get yourself into that prime position to get the P1 at the end. So how do you deal with that, and what's your...
That's a very good question, because after the... I forgot to check race director. I think everyone in the top 8 apart from me started on softs. So if there was... I mean, obviously, a lot of things happened for me to win, but if there was no safety car in the early bit, I definitely wouldn't have won, because I was just tumbling down the order. So it's nice to not fully neutralize the race, but just give me a little bit of a breather, because once you start spiraling, again, like I did on the first few laps, I probably would have ended up binning it, basically. So yeah, it's always good to regain the composure.
Most definitely. And what would you say was your defining moment then? Because we had so many interruptions of it. Was there a point where you thought that you could win this? Well, what point did you realize that?
The point I realized was when I got on the exit curb for the final heavy braking. That was the only point I thought I could actually win. But no, I think once I cleared Pete, not that Pete is slow or anything, but it was just I think 4 cars was too many, but 3 was just about clearing Pete and then the safety car. I don't know, the difference between clearing 4 and 3 cars is quite a lot. So once I cleared Pete and then there was the other safety car, that's when I really knew it was possible.
Well, all I have to say is honestly, that was just such a confident overtake at the end, and to be able to pull that off after so many restarts, after so many interruptions in the action, let's call it, that takes supreme confidence, but also it just takes driving ability, and you pulled it off to perfection at the end. And I'm sure that smile is back on your face.
It most definitely is. Thank you very much, guys. Lovely to talk to you all. Have a good night, all right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Wonderful.
And
well
indeed.
done to G-Watts, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, can you fault him, really? Just opportunistic, knew what he had to do, got it done to perfection. And sometimes it is better to go into the race without a plan, and this is one of those times. It worked out to perfection for him. We will be able to have the opportunity to now talk to P2 Dragonflies, who... Obviously, you never want to finish P2, you always want the victory, but championship standings, it's looking good for him. Let's see if we can have a word. So, Mr. Dragonflies, hopefully you can hear us. It was
hello.
Possibly not the ideal scenario for you. You obviously wanted that win. You put yourself in a prime position with those safety car restarts, which were absolutely stellar. But what's your opinion about this race?
I mean, honestly, was a pretty average clean race. I've seen a lot of carnage behind me, I can say that, but for me it was basically a lonely race for the whole race. Apart from like the last 2 laps where I had GWATs all over me. Obviously on the better tire, the safety cars did ruin my progress a bit. Even even with the first 2 safety cars, I think I could have gotten the win. But the third safety car made us all bunch up, and on the new tires it's just not much to keep someone behind.
Well, you nearly did it, to be fair.
Yeah,
You nearly did it.
nearly.
Only a couple of corners, but definitely good defense. Sorry, Carl, you had a question.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say, yes, the feature race might feel a bit bittersweet, but I suppose when you look at it in perspective, you were top of the championship. The sprint race happened, it didn't go your way, but the feature race, actually, a lot of the chasing pack fell by the wayside. So, in some ways, can you look at the feature race? I know it wasn't the win, but can you look at it in a positive way despite that?
Yeah, I'm looking at a massive positive way. Unfortunately, I will be missing the next 3 races, so I think that's a goodbye for my championship lead if I have some. But yeah, today overall has been like lovely racing for me. Apart from the sprint, which I'm not gonna make any comments about that. Oh my god.
Wow, chaos
Everyone can fill
leads
in
to
the blanks
chaos.
at home.
Yeah, it was interesting racing at the behind. But you know, this league is for fun, for content, and it always provides amazing drama. So we love to see it, you know.
Amazing drama, but also amazing driving. I will say your defense and your overtakes and the way you placed the car just while fighting in the pack was supreme, and I think it did actually put you in that prime position to potentially win the race. You mentioned obviously having the fresher tires for GWATs was the defining defining point in those last couple of corners, but until then you'd done a stellar effort to stem the tide, let's put it that way. I'll ask the same question actually, because we rarely get the opportunity to ask these questions with multiple safety cars. How much did that affect you? Were you confident before the safety cars, and were you confident afterwards?
I was after the first safety car, I was really confident because Alex did not pit, and I saw that as a massive mistake because he was just he was either way gonna have to pit like 2 laps after the first safety car. So I just did not understand his strategy. But when the second safety car came out, I was definitely worried because people were gonna just pit on. I saw GWATs in P5, I think, and on the fresh softs, it's a massive difference in F2 cars. Like I think like 5/10 per lap easily, and so I was a bit concerned. But after the second safety car, I was starting to get like a small gap between me and Adam and Scott. So I was starting to get like the confidence back. So I was kind of, I was confident that I was still on for a win. But at the third safety car, I knew it was gonna be a final lap battle with GWATs because yeah, that's like the tire wear is just massive on Australia, and having pitted like 4 laps earlier than GWATs, and GWATs being on the quicker compound, it's just gonna be no match. Like I'm sure you guys seen it on the broadcast, like he just went around me pretty easily, even though I try to defend it as much as I can. But yeah, definitely a bit stressful.
Well, your safety car restarts, especially the first one that you were leading there, were just stellar. You managed to pull away from Adam Sanderson and just give him no chance whatsoever. We've got Gareth Allen asking where you keep your cabinet. I think he's inferring that you might need a cabinet for your trophies that you're collecting here. And
I probably do, yes. I'm just that good, I'm fucking... No, sorry. Bad word. I am the next Jarno Opmir. As you guys heard, he left Mercedes and I'm replacing him. So yes, I can't wait to fill my cabinets full of trophies.
You heard it here first.
This just in, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Exclusive news here on Creator Series, huh? Well, anyway, it's been a pleasure to watch you drive. It's just amazing. You had amazing moves throughout the entire race. Strategy, potentially safety cars not working in your favor, but that P2 is still ever so sweet. Unfortunately, as you said, might be missing you for the next couple of races, but I think for the moment you've made a stellar demonstration of what it takes to be at the top of the F2 Creator Series standings. So, hats off to you.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you guys so much for the commentary. I'm sure I'll go check it now, and it's gonna be amazing. And yeah, guys, see you in 3 weeks.
Bless
Bye
you.
bye.
See ya. Take care, man.
And
Well, we hope it's good.
Indeed, yes, I'll put that out there as well. I love the compliment, but I'll let you, as an audience, be the judge of that one. In the meantime, we have, last but not least, Adam Sanderson, who had a few moments where it could have gone oh so well for him, but he just found himself on the wrong end of a battle or being boxed in and not being able to make the overtakes and indeed the safety car restart. So there's a lot to talk about with Adam Sanderson. Let's see if we can get a word from him.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Adam, hello. Welcome in.
Hello. How
race.
are we doing?
We're doing well, thank you. How are you feeling after that race? Talk us through it.
A bit annoying that I had damage in both races, but it's okay. We pushed through. Podium in both. I'll take that any day of the week.
Absolutely. I think the main thing was coming off last week. Spa wasn't the greatest week ever, but it's a good way to bounce back here today, isn't it?
No, 100%, 100%. Last week was last week. Annoying, but you know, these things happen. Didn't go my way, but today was okay. I'll take it. Like I said, annoying that I had damaged. A brake check into turn 1. Someone broke way too early. Had a Constantina effect. Unfortunately, that was my M plate gone. I don't know how much damage there was. This time around, Gareth. Oh, there was a lot of chaos, and trying to navigate it was paramount to getting a good end result. Just maybe had a little contact with Gareth, but no matter whose fault it was, like I said, we got a podium in the end. We'll take it.
It's always Gareth's fault. That's what we've been told to say.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Indeed, it looked like on the safety cars, the first one, especially behind Dragonflies, I kind of got caught by surprise. What was your strategy going into that? Did you have some way you thought you were going to attack him, and how did he counteract that?
So it was the second safety car restart, wasn't it? That he caught me napping. So I was trying to go alongside him just to warm up the rears, really. And I was spurting forward, falling back, spurting forward, falling back, and then he just timed it right as I was falling back. My car bogged down and he was gone, literally a second up the road. If you don't react quick enough or prepare enough in these F2 cars, you are going to bog down. You're going to lose so much time. So second time around, I wasn't playing any of those games. I was making sure I was on the money, and yeah, we was there with him.
The Max Verstappen safety car restart, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it
Back
didn't
when
pay
that was
off.
the thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
We've asked both GWATs and Dragonflies about this, but dealing with, because there was obviously a multitude of safety cars.
Yeah.
How did you deal with it? How did you regather that momentum after every single one?
Well, I mean, strategy was key. Knowing which safety car to box under, which to not box under. Track position in the F2 series is, again, paramount. If we didn't have the 2 safety cars at the end, I reckon I might have fallen back a little bit more, because the softer runners, pretty much the whole field, other than like 4 of us at the front, boxed. I might have been in a lot of trouble if that safety car would have lasted for the 4 laps like it potentially was going to. But what annoyed me in my race most was GWAT's holding us up when he was on the mediums in his first stint. I was so much quicker on the softs, but he was just all over the road. Not saying it was a bad thing, just saying I couldn't get past him, which messed mine and Fabio's race up. But we know how Fabio ended. He ended up DNF. And I haven't actually seen the incident, but I'm looking forward to watching that one back.
It was quite a spectacular one, quite a heavy hit, sadly.
Okay.
I think, if I remember correctly, that was B-Roy spinning around Hoodie Pete. That ended in bad things. But yeah, for sure, it was a really difficult race for Giwat at the start, as you said. He mentioned actually in his own interview that the safety car kind of saved him in terms of getting him onto different tires, and so stopping him falling down the order.
Annoying.
You've got to. I interpret your race this way. I'm not sure if you'll agree with me, but it was the most consistent race. You were always near the front. Unfortunately, just getting boxed in at certain times, preventing you from making the overtakes at certain points. So do you find some encouragement, even though P3 is a good result, but do you find encouragement in the fact that in both the sprint and the feature race, you were right there at the pointy end?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I know I've got the pace to challenge for the championship lead. It's just incidents have happened, whether it be off my own inability to keep it consistent, or something has just happened that's completely out of my control that has prevented me from scoring massive points every week. But yeah, I think you're right. It was pretty consistent from me. If I were to pat myself on the back, I just want every week to be as consistent as that, and one of these weeks I'll get that feature race win. I've won in the sprint, but I've never won in the feature, annoyingly.
Well, it could well be on its way soon, given the consistency. So. Touch wood, and my desk is all made of wood, so you're in good stead.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Well driven today. That was absolutely excellent.
Thank
Good, man.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Cheers, guys, as always. Thank you.
Very welcome. Take care, man.
And there you have it. From their own respective interviews, there are some insight into what the race felt like them, the various incidents, and how they coped with all of those issues. It's always interesting, isn't it? Talking to drivers and their various mentalities. They have different strategies with coping with everything, and sometimes that can work to their disadvantage, other times not. And I think this is one of those prime races where that happened.
Of course, well, we saw it. It's like Adam said when we just interviewed him, it was choosing those right moments, those critical calls of when to come in, when not to come in, when to be brave, when not to be brave, etc. That's what made the difference today, ultimately, with the smattering of safety cars and other things besides. That's ultimately shaped the scope of this race. And, you know, we've said it so many times, but what a race it was. Honestly, what a race it was. Drama all the way up until literally the last corners. It's peak Formula 2. You'd love to see it.
Yeah, indeed. I was about to say it's multiple races. It felt that way. Every time we had a safety car restart, it just felt like we were effectively just starting again afresh, with most people on a new set of tires, new opportunities, new front wings for certain people. And I just delivered in... it confirms the phrase once again that safety cars lead to more safety cars, and in this race with the field bunching up and certain drivers out of position or on a different compound of tires, it was always bound to happen. I do have to feel particularly sad for a few drivers who didn't get to display their pace or their consistency in the race through a few incidents, notably at the back of the pack. Have to give a special shout out to Punju as well for that finish, going backwards across the line after a collision, I think, with Gareth Allen there at the end. So it's something that you rarely see, put it that way. In terms of driver of the day, I have absolutely no idea, so I will leave that one to you, Carl. Who do you think it is?
Oh, crikey. How long have you got? Well, I mean, there's a multitude of names that come to mind, isn't there? You could give it to Dragonflies, who commanded the safety car restarts for so long in that race. You could give it to G Watts for his heroics at the end. You could give it to Adam Sanderson for remaining consistently at the front. I mean, there's so many people you could give it to, honestly. I mean, where do you even begin? There's so much pressure, man. I mean, okay, if we're gonna go purely based on heroics and just for the pure fun factor at the end of that race, G Watts has got to get it from me. I know it's cliche, but those moves at the end were just absolutely exquisite.
I'd say definitely in terms of performance, G Watts knew how to position the car, knew how to get that strategy at the end. Maybe a little bit of luck, but as I've said during multiple broadcasts, you have to have luck as a driver. It's one of the key things to have. In terms of entertainment, I'd have to give it a split between G Watts and Punju, definitely, for that last finish.
Oh, yeah.
You know how to finish a race in style, Punju, that's for sure. But most definitely another F2 race. I think you can say one of those things that's consistent with F2 is that the drama continues. These cars, although difficult to race, they do provide some side-by-side actions, and the little mistakes from drivers trying to tame these monsters of cars means that you frequently get the overtakes. And on a track like Melbourne, Australia, the Albert Park circuit, it's sometimes in Formula 1 it can be quite a boring race, but for F2 it definitely provides a spectacle.
Gosh, doesn't it just, honestly? It's a commentator's dreamland. It really is. Turned our worlds upside down, for lack of a better term, but I mean, it's just incredible. As we get the pleasure to enjoy all of the laps of racing. We couldn't breathe for any of the laps. There was no chance where we could sit back and go, oh yeah, this race has settled down a little bit. No, it hadn't. Absolutely not. Action all the way through. And I mean, while we're on the subject of luck as well, I think a lot of times you create your own luck as well, and that's what played into the hands of the likes of Dragonflies, the likes of Adam Sanderson even towards the end, the likes of G-Watts especially. But equally, you have to feel for people like F1 Alex. He did well actually to recover. I think it was to either 6th or 5th, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but he did extremely well to recover nonetheless.
Yeah, some great recovery drives, and some drivers just getting caught out repeatedly every single time by the safety car. Those really were the deciding factors of the race. F1 Alex getting really... I'm not sure... one of the drivers, I think G-Watts, or was it Adam Sanderson that pointed out... No, I think it might have actually been Dragonflies that pointed out that F1 Alex may have made a strategic blunder. It's always difficult to know with the safety car. You don't see them coming, obviously. So you have to base your strategy around that. And, opportunities to learn from it. The next track coming up, speaking of opportunities to learn, Las Vegas, one of those tracks where the overtakes are plenty and the walls do not pardon. What do you think we're going to see in that one?
You do not play chicken with the Armco at Las Vegas. Let's put it that way. I mean, if anything, it'll be even more chaotic than what we've seen today. And you thought that was chaotic enough? No, it will probably be more so around Las Vegas. I've said that now, and it's just going to be a really boring race week, isn't it? I'm sorry, everyone, but I mean, it's Las Vegas. Anything can happen in Formula 2, as a famous man once said, albeit with Formula 1, and it usually does. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Add to that the fact that what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That means that indeed we will probably see some unexpected stuff happen.
Absolutely.
And to see all of that stuff, all you have to do is follow the various channels of the Creator Series. You can see them at the top of this panel here, at F1 Creator Series, for all of the various action, including highlights, clips of stuff going on, and indeed the live broadcasts that you see here. So stay tuned for all of that. Carl, where can we find you usually on the social medias?
Oh, I was glad you said social medias, because I was going to go, you can find me in England. But in the social media world, you can find me basically at Carl Poranic. No one else has my name. If you just put me as one name, exactly as it's spelled on your screens, you'll probably find me there.
Lovely stuff. And for me, apparently you can find me, for one person, you can find me at Goodwood. That was the shock of my life. But anyway, you can find me, everything is amusing, as it's written just below my mug right here. And yes, that has been the F2 Creator Series for today at Australia. What a race, what a season we are having here, with the championship still wide open, with Lolanova that could still indeed win the championship. It's up to our remaining regular drivers, let's call them, to close in that points gap and finally take the crown off Lolanova, who I'm sure will do a great job in Formula 1 like he did last week. So yeah, many talking points for this one, and I'm sure it will continue to talk throughout the week about that one. Any closing thoughts?
Words don't even cut it, do they? I mean, what a week of racing. What a week of racing. It's been an absolute delight to do this commentary on this race. It's been a delight to share the commentary box with you, John. And hopefully next week it'll be just as much chaos and just as much fun and all the other things besides.
Indeed, and the pleasure is all mine. It's been a just an incredible experience, I think is the best way I could phrase it. Commentating once again Formula 2 and also being the producer behind the scenes for all of this, frantically pressing buttons to keep up with all of the on-track action, which was very, very fun. And I have to thank the Creator Series and indeed Gareth particularly for giving me this opportunity. And I hope, indeed, I did a good enough job. It's been an absolute pleasure in any case. Thank you for that. Indeed, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Later.
And until next time, I hope you've had a wonderful viewing experience and more chaos to come tomorrow with the F1 Creator Series. So stay tuned for that in the evening European time. Also making a return is the WRC Creator Series on Monday. So lots to watch this weekend and just after. So see you all from me on Monday, but most of you will be able to watch the F1 broadcast tomorrow. Hope you have an amazing viewing experience of that. And until next time, thank you ever so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.